Okay, good evening. We'll get started. We'll start with some housekeeping issues in terms of why I'm using a microphone in a small little room and I'm loud. We are recording this, and so these microphones, you don't hear them outwards. They are being connected right into our machine to be able to plug into YouTube. So as weird as it is in a small room, when we get into the back and forth, we'll either pass you a microphone or ask you to come up just so that we can grab your question and engage in the conversation. All of these are posted on our facilities portion of our website. And so you'll see the other schools that we've done, community listen sessions, all posted there, and this one will be as well. So that way, if any family, community member that wanted to be here tonight that could still hear the conversation. So that is just want to call the awkwardness out right now, why you can't really hear the microphone we're using it. So good evening, Matt Zedeker, Superintendent of District 115. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. This is, a series of listening sessions with stakeholders for us as we are planning for the future. And planning for a facility master plan that will impact all buildings and the community as a whole. And, our goal is to try to listen and to get feedback from as many different groups and stakeholders as we possibly can. And that's what we're doing tonight. And tonight is really going to be about you and the engagement and questions and comments and ideas. But we will start with some just foundational data so that everybody is working from the same data as we think about the questions that we'll ask and the responses. And before we get into that, just a few introductions. Over at the table to the right, we have Heather DeVerde. She's our Executive Director of Facilities, and Craig Wesley, our Assistant Superintendent, Business Services, and all of our contact information is up there. We really encourage you to reach out as goes any kind of meeting or any kind of event that you're at. There's always I wish I would have after you left. And so, our contact information is there for you to reach out, ask the question, give the comment, and we'll be able to provide and include that in the information that we get out of tonight. We also have Brody and Corey from Studio GC. They're a part of our architects. They have been doing all of the partnership with us in terms of behind the scenes work on assessing our buildings and providing that data. And they'll be partnering with us as we develop that facility master plan. And so tonight, they're grabbing all of our notes. And what we do out of these listening sessions is that we take these notes, we add them to the other notes and things that we've done already so far, and we're starting to create themes. What are we hearing? What types of ideas and thoughts are we getting from the different meetings that we've held? And so we'll do the same here. What that will do then is we have a steering committee that has been formed. Our steering committee consists of members, teaching staff, principals. We have some district office personnel. We have 3 community members. We have 2 students from my Superintendent Student Advisory Council. And then we have, who am I missing? 2 board members. That committee has been charged with taking these themes, us giving them essentially what are the problems we're trying to solve. And as a group of 12 and 13, they get to kind of give us ideas and thoughts on how to solve those problems. And so we're really getting a nice, diverse perspective and different lenses on our problems and how to solve those, which really guide our team in those options in working with the architect to eventually present to the board. And so that is kind of the process that we're going through now and getting to a final plan. So tonight, just for some of that baseline data for everybody to share in, we'll talk a little bit about our community, the demographics of our community and the change that our community has gone through. We'll talk about our student growth and demographics. And then, this particular session, just like what we would have done at a building, is we'll provide some special education specific data around the district. And again, this isn't exhaustive. This isn't meant to give all data and all information, but it gives us a launching point as we get into our questions. And as we get in our questions tonight, the questions that we ask, the first couple of ones, are really broad questions. And they're meant to get you thinking and provide us feedback. And that's not necessarily about the physical structures of our building, even though we're talking about a facility master plan. We need to know as a district what we're doing well, so as we are starting to think about spaces, what are things we want to make sure that we are focusing on and continuing to improve, as well as wow, we've really missed some things here as a district, because you'll have opportunity to let us know where our gaps are at and how we might incorporate that into our full plan. And then the last slide, where, obviously will be structured just on the physical brick and mortar of our district, and what you think the district needs, or what you would like to see the district enhance or improve as we think about our facility master plan. And so I'm already talking way too much, so I'm going to get through the data, because tonight is really about the questions and answers and comments from the group here tonight. So just some high-level data here for Yorkville. You'll see that the median age in Yorkville is about 35 years old. What's kind of really important about this slide is that individuals who are 0 to age 19 represent 32% of the population in Yorkville, which means we as a school district have a lot of those, and are going to have more as they come up. I think another, highlight is the other report we received out of the census is they actually broke down age 65 and older, which they identified as retirement age. Right now represents about 7%. That was over 15% 20 years ago. So the whole entire community is kind of shifting. It's shifting a little bit younger. We're seeing families and younger families move in, which would be represented in that 0 to 19. And some of the older residents are kind of exiting out. And so our community certainly is going through some change. So when that 0 to 19 representing 32% of our population, just a little historical perspective on student growth and our student enrollment. Back in 2002, our district had just over 2,400 students. And these numbers are taken at what we call our 6-day enrollment. And so every year we take our student count after the 6th day. And this year, after our 6th day, it was over 7,100 kids. Now, we also know this has probably already gone up, because our early childhood is an open enrollment, so it's rolling constantly. So when kids hit that age of 3 and they qualify, they have the ability to enroll in our district. And so those numbers will fluctuate, but in terms of just year over year static numbers for 6-day enrollment, we can see that continual and constant growth of our students into District 115. And then we look at and examine our student demographics. At the end of the 23-24 school year, our Hispanic population, so students who identify as Hispanic, are our fastest growing student demographic. They are sitting at just about 24%. 7 years ago, that was 17%. So it's about an average of 1% a year in terms of the growth of students who identify as Hispanic. The rest of the subgroups within our students are white, black, Asian, 2 or more, have stayed relatively flat during that same time. So then we have some special education specific data as we look back over the last 3 years. Students with IEPs. So the number of students who have an IEP in the district has gone from 1148 up to 1267 over the last 3 years. And percentage of students, that ranges anywhere from 16 to just under 18% of our students would have qualified for an IEP. And then we also include 504 plans for our students. And this, you can see the drastic increase over the last 3 years with students who have qualified and received 504 plans, starting at 231 students in 22-23, all the way up to 448. So certainly, with the data that we're presenting, it presents some challenges for us as a district. We know that we're going to continue to grow, right? That we know, we were just talking up here that there's new developments that are just being approved by the city for 400 more units or 400 more houses. Growth is coming to Yorkville. And it's a great problem to have, because that means that we're providing the kind of lifestyle that people want with great schools and great services, but it presents challenges. We are overcrowded at nearly all of our schools. We know our students want to engage in other curricular activities, whether it's co-curricular, extracurricular activities, and we lack some of that indoor and outdoor space to be able to provide those opportunities for students. When we think about our district and our buildings, we have buildings that vary in age in terms of updates. We have buildings that were built in the 1950s, with some that were built in the 2010s and early 2000s. And each one of those buildings has unique needs, whether that's now time for updates with our HVAC or our ceilings or floors. So there are different infrastructure type things that just happen to buildings that we have to pay attention to. And then we certainly want to continue to look at our security. Every year we look at security of our buildings, and as we design and engage in our facility master plan, security will be a topic that we always want to consider and evaluate as we look at our buildings. So here's where we get into your participation. And every time I think we wait so long for the first person to actually speak, and then it's like a waterfall. So don't be shy, because everybody has an opportunity. But here's where we're talking about a broad question. We want to know how we're doing. And the question, and we want you to answer, is from your lens, your student experience, your experience as a parent, as a staff member. And again, this isn't necessarily about the physical structures of our building. We want to know more than just that. And when we think about that large question of how are we doing, we've kind of provided some bullets, some things to think about with that larger question in terms of, what successes have you observed in our schools? In what areas have we excelled academically or socially? How can we better communicate as a district our achievements? And then, are there gaps between expectations and performance? And so, there's kind of some 4 subtopics that we can bounce around. You don't have to stay on one, but I think it's really important for us to gather that information and get your perspective on how we're doing as a district. Again, we can either pass the mic, or if we can't reach, the mic is available up there, and we can adjust that. That's perfect. Fantastic. I don't know if this might reach you. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so I've got 2 kids still in elementary school, one at BGS and one at Autumn Creek. One has a 504, one has an IEP. I think our district is great at fostering a sense of community and pride in being Foxes, and I see that at BGS, at ACES, and even my oldest is getting ready to go to the middle school next year, and there's a sense of pride in being in Yorkville and pride in saying that I go to Yorkville schools. In their extracurricular activities, they go, they're with kids from other districts, and even parents talking like Yorkville is really pretty well respected in the area. So I think we are doing a great job with that, and that's something I hope we can continue to foster even as we continue to grow.
Great, thank you. Other thoughts?
The dual language program has been a great asset to our community and beneficial for a lot of families. I do wish that it was all housed more in one building for all the levels. It's hard for parents in this district when kids are moving. They're at one school for K through 3, they're another school 4 through 6, and it's hard to get involved with the different PTOs and know the people at the school when you're constantly, or when you have going from school to school, or you have kids in several schools. It's very hard to get involved, and I know it's hard for the teachers to collaborate when they're in different buildings for the dual language program.
Thank you. And you can also take the topic and how are we doing, and I know this session is geared more towards families that have students with IEPs. Think about the IEP process that you've gone through, or again, there'll be a slide with what can we do better, because I know there are always gaps and opportunities, but you can think it through that lens as well in terms of any processes, experiences that you or your students may have experienced. May not be able to reach you. You might have to be a podium. Thank you.
I said it before at the Grand Reserve meeting. This district is doing really well at inclusion. I have contacts in other districts, and there is a district close to here that absolutely will not do inclusion, and it's absolutely disgusting. So the fact that you guys are doing inclusion, it's not something we have to fight for, is a plus. But again, it could be a little bit better. And it's little things like, yes, we include them in the classroom, but when they're going into that classroom, do they have a desk to sit at? And I've heard as the grades go up, they don't have a desk to sit at. Give them a desk. If they're going to be a part of that classroom too, give them a desk, even if they're only in there for a short amount of time. Include them in the teacher's mailing email list. I asked for that last year in kindergarten because I missed Hundreds Day. He doesn't know what Hundreds Day is, but he could have participated in it and been a part of the class with it, and he didn't get that opportunity. And then the littlest thing, and it seems very stupid, but when we got there, it was my first child going into kindergarten. I'm already walking in the building with diapers and wipes and already feeling a different way. All these kindergarten parents are walking out with a welcome to kindergarten sign. And my child was forgotten. He was the only one in the life skills program that year entering kindergarten. And he was forgotten. We did get our sign, but it's little things like that that make us feel a little bit more included.
Sure.
And it's those little things that are forgotten until we bring them up, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, we could do that, but let's think of those ahead of time. It's great that we're putting them into the classroom and teachers are embracing them, but let's look at those finer details to really make us feel like we are a part of that classroom and a part of the school. So, like, I don't know if everybody's at Grand Reserve, but I look at the emails and it's the weekly, like, character prizes. I don't ever see a single person from life skills that has received, and I'm sorry, but our kids have probably the most character in that school. And none of them have ever received one of those awards. So it's those little things that could be included more that just are forgotten about, or it's a second thought.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. We'll see here.
So I have a kid at Grand Reserve, and he has a 504, and we've had it a couple times where there's been a sub in the class, and he has requested something on his 504 and been denied it, and he'll advocate for himself and tell the sub, well, I have a 504, it's on my 504 plan, and the sub will still tell him no. So I wish that there was better planning in that aspect, where if there was going to be a sub in the classroom, I don't know if the plans can be emailed ahead of time so the sub can see there are students in the classroom that have these plans. I mean, I'm very proud of my son that he advocated for himself, but the fact that it was still denied is not okay. I get it that there's going to be sicknesses and call-ins, but just making sure that the subs are aware that there are students that have these and there are needs that they need, I wish is something that would be addressed more.
Well, with that comment, I'll kind of transition because I think we've kind of naturally gone then that way, is certainly areas to improve. You know, we've heard a little bit now in terms of thinking of even the little things as we think about inclusion and how those matter. Talking about a little bit about, you know, the subs and how do we communicate with students, whether it be students with IEPs or 504s. But what other improvements would you like to see in our schools? Again, bringing your lens and your experiences to this conversation. How can we enhance student learning? Are there ways to improve teacher and staff support? Just some guiding questions as you think about, you know, areas for us to focus on and improve as we not only just try to provide a better educational experience for our students, but as we think about our facility master plan and our planning of programmatic things as well as our buildings.
We need to figure out a way to lessen the number of building transitions that some of the kids have to go through. Like my children, between BGS, Autumn Creek, you know, the high school academy, they go to 5 buildings. And transitions are part of life, but they're hard, especially if you have other challenges. And I know that Circle Center and YGS merged together into Yorkville Intermediate School, but the BGS transition into Autumn Creek, I think, is the hardest because you're taking kids from one of these smallest schools and putting them in to a school where the kids have already been there and they have that sense of pride and they know the recess equipment they like, the tables they like. So the kids coming from BGS are really at a disadvantage. And it was a scary transition, very difficult year for my daughter, and I'm anticipating it for my son. So I think we need to find a way to lessen the number of schools they have to change in between.
Thank you. Other thoughts?
I think there needs to be some more education for teachers and support staff about, specifically about like ADHD and dyslexia. There's a lot of common thoughts of what it is, but it's a lot more than that. And I think it's misunderstood, and if it was better understood by teachers and staff, that our kids would have an easier time. And also, even just parents in general at the schools that have special programs in them. I've heard parents on different PTOs talking down about the STARS program and why are those kids in our school and things like that. And it really just needs to be better education on all parts and celebrating that.
Okay.
I have my laundry list. I also have another parent that has texted me that couldn't be here today. Her suggestion as far as improvement in schools, especially when we're looking into the future and possibly building, that this is a parent whose child will be in life skills, that we look at the classrooms and what the classrooms need for these students better. And when you're looking at middle school and high school, looking at how we can build more of a community. So having a kitchen space, having personal bathrooms connected to each classroom, which I will get to, personal story with that one, but having a kitchen space and a washer and dryer so we can teach the kids how to do that, how to set a table so they can have a lunch together. Things like that was something we don't have now, but it really does teach a lot of skills. And so it would be, you know, if we can get that in the schools at the middle school and high school level, I think it would be very, very beneficial. That's coming from another parent, but I was like, that is a great idea. As far as bathrooms, like a bathroom in each classroom for, again, life skills, and I do have 2 kids with IEPs. One is in general education. He has good days and bad days, and his teacher is a saint. And then I have life skills. And they are in one of the classrooms for life skills at Grand Reserve is the smallest classroom, I swear, in the school. There are now 6 students and 3 to 4 paras and the teacher. The teacher does not have a desk in the room anymore because she wanted to give more space to the students. It's tiny. They don't have a bathroom. They have to, well, my son needs full assistance, and the other teachers do not want the paras going into the boys' room to help him with going to the bathroom and changing diapers. So now they have to either disrupt the other life skills classroom to change that or go into the nurse's office. What I found out not too long ago is one of the days that he had, sorry, it happens, an explosion. Now he had to walk down the hall to the nurse's office to get cleaned up. And that's not okay, especially when at Grand Reserve, under my impression right now, it still is open, at least it was at the beginning of the year. The room right across from the other life skills classroom is empty, and it has a bathroom in the classroom. It's bigger. Why are we not in that classroom? Why are we shoved into a small classroom and my son having to interrupt a class or go down to the nurse's office to get his pants changed? When he could have space. His locker, if you open it, is stuffed full with diapers and wipes and his coat and his backpack and extra clothes and all the other supplies that he actually needs to get through the day because there's no extra storage to actually put that in the classroom, and it's day-to-day things that he needs. So looking at that, it's a need. It really is a need when you're having to assist the children with going to the bathroom. And then I also look at the safety, and I know we've talked about this, and I've brought it up before. I know that everybody is trained. I know you guys have done the I Love You Guys Foundation. I've been trained in it. I do this type of thing for work. But when you take 6 special needs kids and 3 to 4 paras and a teacher, and you have a fire alarm or an active threat in the building, and now you have chaos and you're trying to evacuate those students when they're in the middle of a busy hall, it's chaos. I know they're gonna do the best that they can to protect our kids, but they're not gonna be able to pick them up anymore and run out of the building. If they were in that other classroom and you had both life skills at the end of the hall with their own bathroom, a door to the outside, you could easily evacuate these kids much safer and keep it a safer environment for them. And I just don't understand. I've brought it up to the school. I've brought it up in my IEP meetings, and you know, it doesn't change, but safety is a big issue. We can't ignore it. It happened again today, and it's not something we can ignore anymore. Why not make it safer? I know they have to go to the cafeteria. I know they go to music. I know they go to art, and it can happen when they're outside the classroom. But when they're in the classroom and they're spending a majority of their day in the classroom, why are we not making it the safest place possible?
Great, thank you. Thank you. Okay. So then we'll transition into switching brains to really now the physical pieces, the brick and mortar of our district in terms of, we heard a little bit with, some bathrooms and adjustment for some rooms. But as we think about just kind of 2 questions, as from your lens and your experiences, as you experience the district as a whole, what essential improvements are needed for our facilities? And then, kind of a little bit more grandiose is, what would you like to see? Obviously at some point money's going to be a factor and we have to make decisions, but we liked the perspective of what do you think is the non-negotiable absolute needs that our facilities need, and then what would you like to see as we continue to grow and expand as a district and a community?
All right, so I'm at the Transition Center, and I think one of the things that in our building, and anyone who is in a wheelchair, has to push somebody in a wheelchair, has to manage students in a wheelchair. At my building, we're slamming our bodies to get doors open, and we're kicking doors open, and even as a mom, I'm not gonna lie, I have 3 children, and I slug all over the campus, all different campuses to go to games, and I'm kicking in doors. I can't find a bathroom with a changing table. So those are small things that I think that for people who have to change somebody with or without a disability, or carry a backpack, or try to get a door open with a stroller, I do think improvements can be made in that way, because there's times where I'm like, I don't want to go to this football game because I don't want to deal with this. Or I don't want to go to this event because I have nowhere to change my 18-month-old and have a space to wrangle my other 2 kids. And so I can't imagine how parents with children with significant disabilities or wheelchair physical disabilities feel trying to get in and out in some of our facilities. Some doors are super accessible, but some are definitely not.
Thank you.
I will just say I have one kid that has a 504 high school and a 4th grader that has an IEP. It was a very difficult process to get that IEP. Lots of things kind of didn't go very well. I ended up having to hire an advocate to get the needs. Over the years, there's been times when there hasn't been like a math specialist, or there hasn't been, like this year we transitioned to YIS, and, I don't know what happened, but the special ed teacher, I guess she must have quit, somebody else was hired. It's been a really hard transition for my son to go from ACEs to there, and the communication has been awful, so we've been working on that. But I will say, getting the IEP and then having, it's one thing to write it on a paper, what's needed, but to have the actual people there has been a problem. I think we need to invest in those kinds of things. It's great to have fancy whatevers, but if we don't even have these, the reading specialists, the math specialists, and our teachers, I agree, they need more support. My son looks normal when you see him. but he has some severe things going on with him that I don't have to sit there and feel like I have to wear a t-shirt that says my son is blah, 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 blah. So it has been difficult, and I think just seeing from when my high schooler to now, the kids have changed. COVID did things to kids. It's harder for these teachers. They need more support. These teachers need paraprofessionals. They need people to help them too, and they need the education because the kids have just changed, and it's gotten much harder for these teachers. So it's yes, I want to see all these great things, but I think the most important thing is to support these teachers. And my kids are in dual language, so I agree this transition between, and I've started the program. My kid was in the first year, so I have gone through all the horrible changes, good and bad. It's a great program, but the big thing with that, is it's hard to have it split up. And my little guy that has special needs, it's been very hard to transition to a new school and get what we need. It's basically like I had to start over again at this new school. And I'm sure other parents that have IEPs or 504s or anything else, you're feeling the same thing. We're kind of always having to fight for this. I will say, when things have been messed up, and my advocate has come and supported me, the district has been willing to say, okay, we made a mistake in this, we'll correct it. So I will say that has been, corrected. But it has taken a lot of my time and money and everything else to get my kid. And I know I'm not the only one, because I talk to a lot of parents in the district. If you have a child that has special needs, it's been hard in this district to get them the services they need. It's going to take a lot of work as a parent, and you're going to have to keep pushing. So, and I also think these teachers, they're trying as hard as they can, but whatever support they need, we need to be helping them. And I also have a kid that's in sports. Yes, I would love to see an indoor track for my runner, but the reality is I think getting those teachers and getting them the support they need so that they can help our kids, that's the most important thing.
That was on the slide previous. It was one about support for teachers and staff. I think that is important to look at for many reasons. There's IEPs that teachers are dealing with, and that's a legal document. And to actually put that in place, support is needed, education for paras, education for teachers, the time for that. I know that, especially at the early childhood level with the new enrollments, you'll start out a year fully staffed, and then all of a sudden, it's not enough. The caseloads are crazy, and it just seems that it's so difficult at that point to advocate to get yourself the staff you need. So, seeing people operating with huge caseloads, so maybe some equity across the district when looking at that, but two, I think you need a full staff, an evaluation staff, and just making sure all the schools are staffed with this, with the people they need. And I think, two, when we're looking at new facilities, it sounds like it's a common message that we're hearing that they're not adequate space-wise, or maybe handicap accessible, ADA compliant, especially when we're getting more students with wheelchairs. And especially the safety issue and classrooms that are empty, that would be more suitable. So putting some of those student needs, prioritizing that, I guess.
So I've got two facilities type improvements that I think should be made. I think we need more flexible learning, dedicated learning spaces in the different buildings, because kids that are pulled out either for acceleration or for support are also often put into a corner somewhere or someplace that's not really conducive to learning, and it makes it hard on the students and it makes it hard on the teachers. So I think that would benefit all students, whether they have an IEP, 504, or acceleration, or just, they're working on a special project or something where they need a dedicated learning space, but not just like shoved in a corner of a band room or something somewhere. The other one is arrival and dismissal at a lot of the schools is scary and chaotic, and especially my one child has severe anxiety, and it stresses her out to no end, and it's dangerous. And I will say at Autumn Creek, it's kids can walk out the door, walk across the street, like nobody's monitoring to see are kids actually supposed to be walkers or not. My daughter was able to walk across the street and go home with a friend's parent that picked him up, not even in the pickup line, but just like going across the street to the park across from there, and nobody stopped her because she's in 6th grade. Now, I knew she was doing it and I was okay with it, but I was like, don't you have to tell someone? She goes, no, they don't care. Like, so, I mean, and kindergartners and first graders can walk out and say, I live in the neighborhood, or I'm going, like, they just go. So there's, between the cars, and I know YIS and Circle Center, like when I drive by there coming home from work, that's a madhouse of people. Like, we need to fix the parking lots and the procedures and things to make it safer for the kids and the parents and the staff.
In these new facilities, I'd like to see more blackboards in them. I would like to see the district really look into their, one-to-one computer with the children, and really see if that is, really, should we be pushing that as hard as we have been? I'd like to see Yorkville be proactive in seeing, maybe we've taken this too far. And I guess I'd really like to see it for these special needs kids, in their individual IEPs. I know it's done wonderful things for some, children to be able to communicate with that, with the Chromebook, but then on the flip side, there has been, a lot of other children with IEPs that Chromebook is just an addiction, and all we are doing is feeding an addiction with that Chromebook. So I think we need to really look at each one individually and come up with a plan for them that way.
Other thoughts?
Can I give like a big wish list item?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we're here.
And if anybody's been in IEP meetings with me, you've heard it, or the district might have heard it. Childcare for our special needs kids, there is none. Yorkville doesn't have it. We were very, very, very lucky that the YMCA had my kids from the time they were babies, and they kept them there and they worked it out with us. And the district agreed to bus from the YMCA. Once my son went into kindergarten, I could not find someone that could come to my house for 1 hour a day, 45 minutes to an hour a day, to get him on the bus, get him ready for school and on the bus so I could go to work. Mm-hmm. So I enrolled him in the SAVE program. They didn't feel like they could handle him. Even though it was through the YMCA, they know our family, they know him. So they agreed that while my other son was there, I could drop them both off at the YMCA, and the early childhood there, they watched him and got him on the bus. That was great. Now this year comes around, both of them have aged out of the YMCA. I cannot send them to SAFE. I cannot find someone to come to my house. So now my husband goes in earlier so he can get home for the bus. I now go into work later, and I work. Then I have to leave work early so I can get home so we can do therapies. And then once they're in bed, after this, I will go home and do another hour or so of work to make up my hours because there is no childcare. We have been lucky to find a nanny in the summer, but this is not going to be something just for elementary school. When middle school hits, they're going to be out at, 2:30, 2:45? I can't leave work. My husband can't leave work. We both have to work, and there is just no options. So what can the district do to help us out? Is there one school that we can kind of put the kids and then bus them from there? Because I can't be the only parent that has this issue. There are some of us that are going to need that childcare, whether they're in middle school or the high school, and it's a continuing problem. It doesn't have to be anything big. I've thought about it, like could we Is there a Big Buddies program? I know that's a national organization. Can we start Big Buddies where maybe some of the middle and high school students can help entertain and collaborate with these students, so you don't have to have as many adults working, so us parents can work because we have to work. You know, we don't have the option. There's many of us that both parents have to work to be able to afford everything, especially having a special needs kid. Everything is more expensive.
Right. Thank you. Okay, well, I'd like to take the opportunity to just kind of explain where we're at in the process and where we're going. And we are a little over halfway in our listening sessions. We have a few more to go in the month of February, and I believe wrap up maybe the first week of March. Our steering committee has begun to develop large options based off of what we're hearing, just to be able to put pieces together and figure out which puzzle pieces fit to solve some of our issues and our problems. We will this spring have, I guess for lack of a better term, kind of an open steering committee meeting where the community will be invited to look at those options, to be able to see, ask questions, clarifying questions, add comments, and then with the goal bringing a couple of recommendation of a couple of options to the board this summer to vote on. So there will be another round of opportunities to see kind of what we've taken, what we've heard, and how we've brought that into life, into options to see what that looks like for our district. And so that will be coming later this spring with the board vote in June or July on what that plan is going to be. So with that, I do want to thank you again for your time, the conversation. We warmed up by like 30 degrees from yesterday, so it felt great coming out tonight. But again, if you have any other additional questions, additional thoughts, we have note cards in the back. If you want to think about something, write it before you leave and leave it here with us. Shoot us an email, reach out to us. Always happy to hear and engage with those conversations and those questions. So thank you again, and have a great night.